The Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee to order to September 10th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Chairperson Mike Seville.
Here.
Vice Chair Bill Nanell.
Here.
Alderwoman Wani Garza.
Here.
Alderman John Lash.
Present.
Alderman Ted Masiacos.
Present.
5 present.
Okay, thank you. The first item on the business is approval of minutes 24-0659. Approval of the minutes from the Public Health, Safety, and Transportation Committee meeting held on August 27th, 2024.
So moved.
Been moved by Alderwoman Garza, second by Alderman Lesh. Any corrections, additions, or deletions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Do we have any members of the public wishing to give comment?
No one has signed up.
Okay, we'll go to the agenda then, 24-0673, and that is a resolution to adopt the 2024 King County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. Natalie, welcome.
All right, good afternoon, members of the Public Health, Safety, Transportation Committee. My name is Natalie Wiza, Aurora's Emergency Management Coordinator, and I'm here today with Emergency Management Staff Member, Ms. Mia Gervais. She is our Resiliency Specialist. And we are asking for Council's approval to adopt the 2024 Kane County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan. And we're going to go ahead and begin with Mia providing a general background of information on the plan, and then I'm going to pick it back up and give some more particulars regarding the development of plan that I have submitted within the Legistar item.
Okay, thank you.
I'm small. Here we go. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mia Gervais, as Natalie stated, and I'm an EM specialist here at the city. I'm going to provide you all with some background on what natural hazard mitigation plans are and why they are important and necessary. The development of natural hazard mitigation plans, or NHMPs for short, occurs every 5 years and are facilitated at the county level. NHMPs identify both natural hazards that the county and its municipalities are most likely to experience, as well as strategies that minimize the impact of these hazards, in order to make the county and its municipalities eligible for pre- or post-disaster mitigation funding. During the update, a member from each participating community or multiple members attend a workshop offered at the county level to provide information to the county about mitigation projects that the city would like to complete within the next 5 or so years. When the city seeks funding from the federal government to complete the projects, it's mentioned in the grant application that the project has been identified in the NHMP, and that gives the project and thereby the city a better chance of getting funding to complete the mitigation project. In addition to being more likely to receiving grant funding for pre-disaster projects, having an adopted NHMP also allows the city to be awarded emergency federal funding after a disaster occurs. Another benefit of adopting the NHMP is that it helps the city maintain its community rating system, or CRS rating, of 7, which gives the city's residents a discount on their flood insurance through the National Flood Insurance Program, or the NFIP. I'll turn it back over to Natalie to discuss Aurora specifics in the 2024 King County NHMP. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mia. Put it back up. All right, so thanks again, Mia. The City of Aurora, we have participated in the Kane County Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan since 2003. I am just going to start to call it the plan in the rest of this because I'll get tongue-tied. So it is a critical element of the city's mitigation mission of our emergency management program. Aurora Emergency Management, Aurora Public Works, and Development Services have all collaborated for the past 1.5 years on the plan that I provided. This plan is an investment strategy. It identifies hazards, assesses risks and vulnerabilities, and develops mitigation strategies and actions that can be funded using a variety of resources. The plan was written with very specific parameters as outlined in Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act, that is as amended on the 44 Code of Federal Regulations. As stated in the 44 Code, the purpose of mitigation planning is for state, local, and Indian tribal governments to identify the natural hazards that impact them, to identify actions and activities to reduce any losses from those hazards, and to establish a coordinated process to implement the plan, taking advantage of a wide range of resources. The plan was developed using 6 goals, and as we work through the various development steps, all decisions and information put into this plan had to tie back to one of the identified goals. Another element added to this plan, which is new for this version and has never been put in before, We as a city and the other municipalities who worked on this plan have incorporated equity and climate change considerations. The first part of the plan focuses on our risks, our mitigation strategies, historical information, community information, and the mitigation actions were developed with a countywide and city-specific focus. The heart of the plan, which is the volume 2, is where you can find the identified countywide and city-specific mitigation strategies and actions. This begins on the PDF page 381 of the City of Aurora, begins on the PDF page 417. Aurora has identified 23 strategies and actions to perform over the next 5 years. Because of the phenomenal work performed through the collaborative process of emergency management, public works, and development services, we were able to take a better look at our community and develop a more impactful mitigation effort that included all of Aurora. The efforts outlined are a combination of planned-for projects, as seen in everyday governmental operation and financial approval processes. Others are restricted to grant funding or future approval processes of government action. Mitigation planning is the foundation for guiding risk reduction investments, and these investments build community resilience to future natural hazard risks. We come before you today with an informed risk reduction strategy, demonstrating commitment to mitigation across multiple community sectors to reduce Aurora's risk and build a more resilient and sustainable future in the face of our changing climate. I'd also like to mention joining us today is Mr. Ken Schroth, and if you have any specific questions for the actions on the public works side, he'd be happy to answer those. But at this time, I digress, and we'll take any questions or comments.
Thank you, Natalie. Any questions of Natalie or Mia? Alderman Donnell?
Just a quick one that comes to mind. Could you give us an example of one of the mitigations that you're proposing as a result of climate change?
Yeah, so one of the things that we tossed around, emergency management tried to be the driver for, and actually during the development process of this plan, we submitted for a grant funding through Building Resilient Infrastructure and Communities from the federal government. I wanted to see a climate change, social vulnerability and reduction, so we can kind of look at what climate change is going to do to the city of Aurora over the next however many years we developed within that project. And then whether it makes it into the 5 years or not, that was step one. So then maybe the next 5 years in the next plan, we would be able to apply those processes identified in that sustainability review for the city. So that's the first step in climate change. It is a huge cost, which is why we went with the grant funding. But we have to be delicate with climate change, and we have to do it as a phased approach, because we can look at the general statement of do your due diligence for greenhouse gases, but we really have to understand what that looks like at the micro level at the local government. So before we move forward, we have to try to achieve that goal of the study and project before we can implement through public works development services what we're going to do with climate change.
Thank you, because all you have to do is watch the news, any news, and they'll talk about floods and they'll talk about wildfires. But we're no stranger to floods here, and I am assuming there's lessons learned that we had from the '96 flood, but things could be maybe worse due to climate change. So
Absolutely.
I would hope that, and I'm confident we are, but is that part of the plan?
Yeah, so we do have flood. Flood mitigation is always within the mitigation plan. As I mentioned, we really looked at this at an equity lens, at a community-wide lens. We did identify there are some areas that may still have some legacy construction that needs to be replaced. Those were developed within the action plan in volume 2, driven by public works. But we are going to keep up with the flood mitigation because the city as a whole has done a great job since '96, thankfully. But yes, flood will always be, I hate to call it a placeholder, but it will always make its way in there because we do see larger precipitous events that are happening here in the Midwest specifically, and it's really starting to create issues for us. No matter how far we've come since '96, we have to keep up that momentum in the future.
And if I may add, not only since 1996 flood, but the 1983 flood in July that really got the city's focus and attention, which we had no idea it was as bad as it was, and made significant progress. As Ken Schroth and I have talked over the years as well, in what we spent, I think the tune was $250 million on flood control since 1983. So it's made a difference in a positive way for our community.
Absolutely.
So this is a plan that's updated every 5 years?
Yes, sir.
And do you and/or Ken have a list of the projects that we received funding for the last 5 years?
I will defer to Mr. Schroth.
Ken Schroth, Public Works Director. The one that comes to mind most recently would be the Illinois Avenue culverts, the hazard mitigation funds we applied for there. That's just just south of Greenfield Lake, north of Orchard Lake. We took a bunch of homes out of the floodplain there. And so with the help of emergency management and the mayor's office, we go after those grants when we meet the cost benefit analysis. And so we've tried in other locations like Macedon Lake. And we just haven't met that requirement yet, but we'll keep trying.
Okay. Alderman Lesh?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have 3 areas of questions. I'll try to go with the easiest first, or unless you want me to do the lift stations. I'm not clear on the lift stations, but it mentioned upgrading 8 lift stations as part of that plan. I don't even know what a lift station is, so I'm sure if you could just share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we have storm lift stations and sanitary lift stations. A lift station basically is as the water comes down a gravity pipe, it gets to an elevation where it just we can't keep burrowing our way down and making it outfall correctly into the river or into the treatment plant. So we have a lift station that pumps the water up again, and then it goes by gravity again until it gets to the treatment plant or gets to the river. And so we've been upgrading those slowly. Actually, we're just finishing. If you look out the windows here at City Hall, you can see the upgrades we're doing at the Clark Street lift station. That's a sanitary lift station that serves Stolp Island. And we just finished the White Eagle lift station updates as well.
Okay, so how many of those, we have 8 to do, is that what the document is?
It's basically a commitment to maintain all of them as we have been. It's just we prioritize them based on need.
Okay. And then my other question, short and simple, but there was a mention of extreme cold. I know we had an issue with the warming center last year, and I know that the mayor asked some of the area churches about opening their spaces and partnering with the city. Have we had any progress on that front as winter is just around the corner?
Right, so we are still working with community services. They are identified under emergency management as a humanitarian aid and relief department within the city. Emergency management still is a partner with them on that. We are identifying a couple of different possible solutions. Right now we are having conversations also to explore how we can better partner with those external faith-based and nonprofit organizations to find a solution ahead of this winter. If you keep up with the Farmer's Almanac or National Weather Service, yes, it's going to be a little bit more cold. It's going to be a little bit more wet this winter. So it has not gone on the wayside. We just don't have anything to publicly put out yet.
Okay. And then my third thing was on the climate issue. I did attend a recent conference about water and climate, and the federal government does have and is partnered with the state to have a lot of the assessment tools, so you can just plug in and they'll give you a partner to work with to identify key areas of potential change. I'm happy to send over the notes from that. I was trying to pull it up on my laptop, but it's not cooperating. But for an example, Milwaukee, they have a pump station that's out on an island, and because the rising sea levels, it's going to be an issue. They're like an early test city, and they now have to think about how they're going to move that. But I don't, looking at Aurora, I'm not sure just what that would be, but I'm sure changing the dams, removing the dams is going to change our water flow a little bit.
Right, absolutely. I mean, we'd be open to any information that you would have. The vision for the climate change study that I was referring to would definitely incorporate any accessible data that's already out there and been done, and then looking at it at that micro level, at the local level, to say, do we have legacy construction in terms of buildings? Is that residential? Is that going to be an economic impact? Where do we need to start thinking about putting funding in the future? All that stuff. And so anything that is publicly accessible, we would be open to in the office to take a look at. Mia is newest in our office. Her title is resiliency. That's mitigation and recovery, and that's also climate change. So.
Thank you. No further questions, Chairman.
My position was also a mitigation activity.
Yeah.
So filling me being here checks that off. One of the things.
Got
on
one
the
done.
plan.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, good. We're making progress. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion been made for approval from Alderman Lesh, second by Alderwoman Garza. Any questions or discussion? Anything more to add from staff?
Thank you, we appreciate it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed, motion carried, 5-0. Any other business to come before the PHS&T? Motion for adjournment is in order.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved by Alderman Lesh, second by Alderman Donnell. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye opposed. We are adjourned, 5-0 vote, and it is 4:18 p.m. Thank you, one and all.